So let's start with the first sound. For each word family method, you will need the following. You will need a set of words that are involved, an exercise book, a pencil, a rubber for easy correction of any mistakes, a red pen, and some props for the do something exercise. Today my props are this fluffy cat or tiger and a hat. And you're ready to go, really. So the first step that we have to make here is to make sure that we have a set of our words written on a piece of paper. I'm using mini whiteboard because it is easy to reuse and it's green. And we write them in the correct way. So we align the sound in the middle and using a bright color, ideally red, and all the remaining letters are on the left and right of that pattern using a ideally dark color like black or dark blue. And we ask the child to read the words. As the child reads the words, make sure that they do it correctly, that any errors are quickly amended. Do not tell them how to say it, ask them to say it again. Ask leading questions to make sure that the answer comes from the child whenever possible. So once they read the words, they identify the pattern, the sound, they have to say the sound. The next step is to build the words using the alphabet of letters. And again, I'll refer you here to my video on how to build the alphabet because it is a very specific process and you might be quite surprised how long it might take. So the first step in building the words is to pull the sound, a, and we'll be pushing up and pulling the sound when we build and then decompose each word as they go. So let's try with the first word, cat. We've got k that we have to say as we pull, a and t, and then the whole word we have to say it, cat. We push the letters back, k, pull, a down, put t back. Again, next word, hat, h, pushing a and t, hat, and so on. Again, if there are any mistakes and errors, ask leading questions, make sure that the child puts the letter in the correct order, the right letters, and then puts it back also in the correct order. H, a, and t. Once all the words have been built, we put the letters away. We can leave it in the arc if we want to for any exercise or any errors. And the next step is to write the words from dictation. Obviously, you are going to be dictating. The child is not able to look up the words. And you do it in the same order of the words. So let's put the sound at the top. Again, to remind ourselves, we're doing the sound a. And let's start with the first word, cat. The next word, hat. It's important that the child says the words as they write it. Again, any mistakes have to be amended as we do it. So deliberately here, I put the word, the letter D at the end of the word fat. And then I can say, oh, there's something wrong with the last letter. It sounds sort of okay, but it doesn't look right. Can you tell me what other letter looks the same, sounds the same? Could you try and amend it? So hopefully the child then will be able to erase it quickly. So there are not too many crossings, which can be quite frustrating for a little child, especially if they are dyslexic. And we can move on. Once we've got all the list, we are going to go over the pattern in red, saying the sound. A, 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 and so on. However boring it sounds, it is a very important part. Once we've done this exercise, we're going to make a do something part. Our do something part is involving the props that we pre-prepared. So it's something that the child can touch. So they can put a cat inside a hat that sat on the mat. And you can take a picture just to reinforce that in the memory, put it in the exercise book so that we remember that for the next lesson. If not, they can also draw the same representation inside the book or in a separate piece of paper. They can use plasticine to make up a 3D representation. a 3D representation of a cat and inside a hat, or anything else that you can come up with, as long as it's multisensory, it's going to be appropriate. So after that two exercise, the next step is to make up a sentence involving a few of these words. So for example here, let the child come up with a sentence. You will be surprised how creative they can be. They can come up with exactly the same sentence. A cat sat in a hat on the mat. They will have to say it, memorize it, and say it again as they write it. A cat sat on the mat in a hat, or the other way around. Let's not forget that we need to put a full stop at the end of the sentence, and we need to check whether all the words are written correctly. I did write it correctly, but we need to make sure that we lead the child to the correct spelling if there are any errors. The next step is to identify our words and go over the sound in red again. So let's say I'm going to go over most of the words. And I missed the word mat. So you can then ask the child, oh, we should have 4 sounds. I can only see 3. Can you find the word with the sound? The fourth word with the sound. Hopefully they'll be able to identify the word mat. And then you can dictate another sentence. For example, you could come up with a man ran for the ham, and so on. So 2 sentences would be more than enough. And now the next step is to make sure that you don't forget about the trigger card. A trigger card is just a little card. It could be a square card, post-it note, where you choose one word. I chose the word cat. You go over in red over the desired sound, and then on the reverse you will draw a representation of that word. So you've got a cat. Now the trigger card, you're going to use it, and you're going to keep it and use it to remind ourselves and remind your child about the sound as you go over the next pattern. And you will do it consecutively over the next following patterns until they get stuck in the memory. So that's all of it really. If you would like to see the following sounds, you will have to look for sound number 2. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button to subscribe to my videos. Good luck!